August the 16th, 2021. Guys, a shout out to all of my friends down in the Florida Panhandle and Alabama and Georgia. Let us know in the comments, guys. You don't have to say where you're at. Maybe mention the area, your state. And let us know the wind conditions and if you still have electricity, things like that. And, let us know. And the one thing about doing a YouTube video about something like this is you can lose power, you can lose your TVs and stuff, but your phone may still be charged enough to where you can reach to a social media platform and get information. But this storm wrapped up very tightly and impressive as it came ashore. It's still listed at around 65 miles an hour. Check that out. And it came in just to the right or to the east of Panama City, just enough to throw most of the energy to the east, just a little. But I noticed about an hour or so ago on the webcam that I linked to in the video before that was showing Panama City Beach from that pier, that the waves were no longer going ashore, but they had calmed down and were moving back off. In other words, just like you're seeing in this image, the counter rotation had come all the way around. I knew the storm had passed and had come ashore, and you were getting wind from the opposite direction. But let us know how that's going. I'm going to show you a close of it up of that area before we go to the west coast. Now, you remember a couple of videos ago we were talking about as these low pressure systems move over land, they create the thunderstorms and the lightning and floods and all that, just like we've seen over the Florida Peninsula and other places as the Atlantic fronts were moving across. And the sun is, because our shields are weak, is heating the surface of both the ocean and the surface of the land. And watch how the storm reacts. As you get into the black, you're getting into very strong thunderstorms, very high up. Check that out, guys. It just wraps into a perfect circle. That's why they're still saying, the last time I checked, 65 mile per hour sustained winds, and with your gust, you're getting into Cat 1 gust very easily at that point. So, guys, we hope that all of you are okay there. Under these conditions, more than likely, there's some power loss. So, if you're not if you have power, you're in that area, or if you're not in the area and you have friends or family there, try to get in touch with them, make sure they're okay. More than likely, it's not a major hurricane, but you can have some damaging winds and power outages. You still have tornado watches up. And now that we see the storm strengthening this much, this time of the day, then that's going to increase the potential for tornadoes as it moves up through eastern Alabama and southwestern Georgia. Guys, you know where it's going to go, north and northeast. So all of my friends, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, pay a close attention to this for the tornadoes and flash floodings and power outages. If you're in low-lying areas or in very close to some of the creeks and stuff up in the mountains, you know what a flash flood can do. Let's back out and get a very wide view from the satellites. These are current images. Here is Grace. The storm is now tracking south of Cuba, according to the center of all the models. And it's predicted to come ashore at least 75 miles per hour, or Cat 1, very close to the Texas and Mexico border. And what that would do is, depending on where you're at, remember that top or the top right corner or northeast quadrant of the storm as it comes ashore is going to be the problem area. You're going to have problems everywhere, but that's where the major winds and that's where the damage is going to come from. But it's predicted now, and this is going to change. This thing has drifted to where the tracking was right across Cuba yesterday. This morning it started moving a little further south of Cuba, but what that is doing is allowing it to maintain its strength now, and instead of having to be torn apart and then re-strengthening, it looks like, it's going to strengthen into at least a Cat 1. Now, some of the models show it striking the tip of the Yucatan Peninsula here. That would slow it down somewhat, but we're going to keep an eye on it because the models are changing. And this system that's kind of rotating around Bermuda is supposed to pull out and go up into the North Atlantic. Now you've got the system that's very strong that's in the East Pacific. Now this is what they're predicting. You've got right now storm at 100 miles an hour. Sustained winds are at 100. Let me pull this up. Moving west-northwest at 9 miles an hour. This was 11 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time. But guys, it's going to do what we've been seeing on the last few storms. Right now, you got a Cat 2 hurricane. And by 8 p.m. Wednesday, it's slowing down to a tropical storm. And then this is the 4 and 5 day forecast out here showing it a tropical storm or weakening. But right now, it's a very powerful storm. 100 mile an hour sustained winds, probably in the Cat 3 region with its wind gust. Now, we're going to go and look at the West Coast fires, guys, and they are unbelievable, the amount of smoke that's moving across the northwest and into Utah, further south into Colorado right now. Unbelievable. And guys, it has circumnavigated the planet up into the Arctic vortex. It's been going on now over a month at least, and most volcanoes will have at least reduced the ash flow by that period of time. But it goes back to this, that during the Martyr Minimum and other mini ice ages, during grand solar minimums, they would go up into the Arctic where there's ice sheets, and they would drill down and do cores, and they can tell what year that, you know, the ash, they will find like just solid ice and then a layer of ash in this ice core, and they can tell the year. And during the Martyr Minimum and a couple of the other ones, it was an ash layer. And what does that do? It cools the winters. You understand what I'm saying? So, and I'm not saying that they didn't possibly have forest fires too. Some are natural. But guys, the major one in California now, the largest one ever, they tracked a professor that taught at taught courses at 2 or 3 colleges there in that area in California, lighting these fires. They tracked him down. And so you've got a combination of drought, high winds, and man-made hail going on right now. But here's what we got here, Tropical Storm Fred. I just wanted to show the path. It's predicted by 2 a.m. tonight to be slowing down to around 40 miles an hour. Notice at the top, it is still at 60. It was 65 as it came ashore, but now it's starting to slow down somewhat. 995 millibars. Pressure moving northeast at 9 miles an hour. You can see the predicted path going up through Alabama, Georgia, the Tennessee, Carolina area here. And again, this is just the path, but you just remember how large that area was. It covered from Alabama over in very close to the Atlantic Ocean as far as the storms and the rains. But this is the predicted path right there. Now this is Grace. What they're showing again is dropping south of Cuba, skirting the Yucatan Peninsula, but you're at 60 miles Wednesday, 60 mile an hour sustained winds by Wednesday at 2 p.m. By Thursday at 2 p.m., you got a 70 mile per hour tropical storm. 75 miles an hour by Friday at 2 p.m., Category 1 hurricane. We'll see if it strengthens beyond that point, and I think it will be determined more than likely by how much it interacts with this Yucatan Peninsula. That always will slow it down. But I want to look at some of the other models. Right now, this one is at 1,007 millibars back here still as a tropical depression. That's about to change very quickly. It's moving west-northwest at 13 miles per hour. It has sustained winds of 35 miles per hour. This came out at 5 p.m. Eastern, which was just a little over an hour ago. Now, I want to point this out. These are the spaghetti models. It's very widespread. You've got 2 or 3 that blend right in here with the Navy model into the central coast of Mexico, that in the Gulf of Mexico itself. You got a Canadian model here, CM2C, that has drifted a little bit further north. And that's what I'm saying. We're a few days out. Let's pay attention to the tracking, and we'll do that here. And a lot of you guys watch it also. But like I said, if it drifts much further north, then you're going to be dealing with a Cat 1 coming in close enough to the very southern tip of Texas that you guys there will also be affected. But for all our friends in Mexico, this thing comes ashore, it's going to get into some high altitudes pretty quickly. They mountains and things like that, and that always creates flash flooding. So be prepared for that. Don't get caught off guard. You guys are pros just like we are in the U.S. here on the northern Gulf Coast. But just keep an eye on it. We're going to be watching it. I want to go over to the West Coast a minute. Now, this starts early this morning and goes up to our current time now. It's 5:20 p.m. Central Time as I'm doing this video. It's going to take a few minutes to load. Guys, look at California and look up through Oregon and Washington. You've got fires there. Check this out. And these look somewhat fresh. Look at this. Right along the ridge lines here on some of the highest points. And if you watch how it travels, it's going over Nevada. It's starting to get down into Utah for our friends there, just north of Great Salt Lake. But look as it moves west and starts piling up here along these fronts and then start dropping back down into the Colorado area. You got Kansas there, and it's pushing south. But this thing is really wrapped up, and if you go further from north than this on the satellites, which we're going to do, you can tell that this is completely wrapped up. And some of in the Arctic vortex sections of this, it's extremely thick. Now, it may be hard to see, but your Canadian border and U.S. border runs right through here, guys, just like that. But look at where and how thick it's stacking up into where you can tell how high it is because it's higher than the clouds in some areas. That is very high in the altitude, and it is circumnavigating the planet. Look at it. Just look at the mixture in with the clouds here. So, again, they have taken ice core samples, and they have found layers of ash during these very cold winters. I've talked about one that caused more people to migrate to California in that area than it did in the gold rush, because it was a winter without a summer. Crops failed. Wildlife died off. They had no way to feed themselves. And, you know, they're saying there's a lot of effort being put forward in putting out these fires. I saw our friend Roy do a video, I think it was yesterday, about there was some diesel shortages over in the Nevada area and things like that. And I did a little checking into it, and not sure for all the reasons, but one is one of the pipelines in that area has been shut down because of the wildfires over in the Sparks, Nevada area coming out of California through there. And they were limiting the amount of diesel that you could get. So if anybody knows about that pipeline being in trouble, let us know again in the comments. That's how we find out information. Guys, this amount of soot and ash into the upper atmosphere is amazing. And look how many of the U.S. states are being affected, the Canadian states. But now with it going around the globe, every nation in the northern hemisphere, especially in their northern sections, is being affected by this. If it continues, then the circumnavigation will continue to increase in density. And we're going to see problems from that, guys. We're going to update this. You know, we'll update the storm systems that we see in the Atlantic and moving across the globe. But we're watching it. Pay attention. Understand where we're at. Look around the entire planet, not only the weather, but what's happening on the ground also. All of this is leading to some major problems. We're watching it. You watch it. It's a heads up. Be safe.